Good Monday morning of the third week of Easter. This is way in advance, by the way. It's very early in the morning, and it's a school day actually. It's Wednesday. Actually, this is Wednesday of Holy Week. To tell you the truth, that I'm doing, but I get agita. I just got to get these done, and they're staying on my mind. So, I'm weeks ahead, as it were. Anyway, I hope that's okay. Today, it's interesting. This week, you have a combination. It's very interesting. You have a double thing. You have the Acts of the Apostles. You're going to see Stephen Martyr for the first 3 days of this week. Is Stephen Martyr, the martyrdom of the apostles. The blood of the martyrs is the life of the church. It gives birth to the church. But also in the Gospels, it's John's 6th chapter. That's the Eucharist. He doesn't have the institution of the Eucharist at the Last Supper the way the Synoptic Gospels done. He does it here in the 6th, and he doesn't speak of the Eucharist. He speaks of himself as the bread of life. And it's that combination. It's really, let me put it this way, it is the combination of heroic faith. That's a witness to in martyrdom, okay, but also heroic faith, but also the table of the Lord where the family of God comes together. You see? I think, you see, for many of us, fortunately, we've grown up in a Christian milieu, and therefore, the heroic faith in general, in terms of a very hostile anti-Christian world, okay, like the apostles faced, and parts of the world, others, but not for us, for most of us. For most of us, the culture supported our faith, and we celebrated it, the Eucharist. The challenge was in the moral teachings of the church, especially marriage and other issues, okay? I'm not going to say it was easy to be Christian, but it was not antithetical to the culture as such, especially those of us that are old. We were raised in a very Catholic culture. As one of my atheistic friends put it, it was fashionable to be Catholic. It's not fashionable anymore. I noticed it in class yesterday, of all things. There's a couple of kids that are really marvelous. I have a great class in philosophy of religion. The kids are extremely articulate. And believe me, they can be as critical of the faith as others are supportive. But one fella in the class raised the issue of the absence of the culture now. And that we're a culture that has gone awry, not only in matters of the church, but in matters of the faith, but also the nation ethos, the national narrative. There is an instability in the culture that wasn't there, let's say, 50, 60 years ago. Okay? And that makes faith and other values more tenuous because there isn't the supporting mechanisms of the culture. Okay? That's why I think in many ways, so many of, certainly many of my friends left the faith. And they weren't just merely cultural conflicts. I think the conflicts in the culture and the conflicts within the faith made it such that departing from the faith seemed the wiser thing. That it was wise, and not in my view. Not in my view at all. I think, to be honest about it, they left one form of cultural faith that I think in many ways they've been thrown into a chaotic world of values. Maybe I'm all wrong on all that, but I don't think so. See? I think we live in a more difficult time, to be honest about it, than it was for sure 50 years ago. It was, in a sense, comfortably Christian, but it isn't comfortably Christian anymore. And now, in our own culture, in our own times, people are making choices they didn't have to make before. In this sense, it's better now, because now you have to choose what you believe, not only in regard to the faith, but other values, national values, cultural values. What do you believe about families? What do you believe about marriage? Is it just merely a convention? See? What about, in a sense, a true and deep patriotism? What about that? What are you willing to commit your life to? I think there's far more ambiguity today than ever in the past. That makes choices far more significant, far more difficult, and more significant. because there isn't the mechanisms of the culture to support. It supports doubt, not affirmation. Question, not answer. Our young people have challenges today that we didn't face, the geezers like me. We didn't face these the way these young people are facing them today. I see it in class. I'm privileged to be with these kids. I love them. And I see the promise of tomorrow in their faces, in their eyes. But I also see fear and wonderment. It's coming out more because I talk about it. I said it the other day in class. I said, I don't see this in you kids, but the social scientists are saying that you're an age full of self-doubt and self-deprecation. There's a desperation in you. I said, I don't see it. And then they begin to talk about it. You see? When you see, yes, I think we're now reaping the whirlwind that we created 50, 60, 70 years ago. Our generation, it's our grandchildren that are reaping the harvest that we created, our own. I'm being honest about it. They didn't invent the chaos. We did. We set it in motion. But the difference now, and I think what is hopeful, when you know you're lost, you seek a way out. You seek a way. If you're lost in the woods, you're going to try to find a way out. You're not going to be content to be lost. And I wonder if that's not if we're not in a very good time in that regard. Difficult. But young people know they've got to find a way of life that contains a profound meaning, because they didn't inherit that. They inherited moral chaos, moral and spiritual chaos. Yeah, I think that's true. In that sense, maybe we live in the best of times. I don't know, I'm just reflecting. Because now you have to choose what you believe, where you want to walk. Are you going to go north or are you going to go south? You can't stand still. You'll die if you stand still. You got to find your way out of the woods. Maybe the analogy of the woods is a good one. I remember when I'd go up to northern Ontario and Alaska and go out into the bush, and I think of the guys I was with. I never want you out of my sight because I could get lost by just bumping into a tree, and then you freeze. You know what an animal does when it gets lost? It lays down. If it gets estranged, it lays down. Yeah. What you can't do as a human is lay down. You got to keep moving. And I think our young people are not going to lay down. They're going to move. Hopefully, they will see in Christianity, in both the Word of God, but also in the Eucharist, a way of life that is not only holy, but wise, a wisdom, a guide, maybe the hunting guide, the guide in, through, and through the forest. Not out of the forest, through the forest. You're not wandering around from tree to tree, but there is directionality to it. And then the wilderness becomes rich with excitement, not dread. Excitement, not dread, because you have a guide. Without it, trust me, there is a terrible feeling of dreadedness. When you're lost in the wilderness, even for a split second, there's a sense of terror, because the wilderness is so much bigger than you. That's the truth. It was true in the ocean. Oh God, how big is your ocean? How small is my boat? My friend Pete Ferriola, God rest his soul, had that little saying on his boat. Oh God, how big is your ocean? How small is my boat? There's a lot of truth in that. And that's life. Life is an ocean, or life is a wilderness. Beautiful, exciting, dangerous. With a good boat and a good compass, with a good guide, it's exciting, not terrifying. That's the truth.